One of the best things about the Sonic movies is Jim Carrey playing Dr. Robotnik. Sadly, the villain sacrificed himself in the third movie and won't be coming back.
A sicker friend.
Or is that just what they want us to believe? The actor himself has said he's open to returning, so there's a good chance we'll be seeing Eggman in Sonic 4. The big question is, how will he come back?
Agent Stone, now.
Maybe the answer lies in the first post-credits scene of the latest movie, where the fastest hedgehog in the world is attacked by a horde of robots that have his abilities, the Metal Sonics. In the games, Metal Sonic is Dr. Robotnik's greatest invention, created specifically to surpass and destroy the main hero of the saga. Fans were actually pretty confused to see him show up only after the scientist had sacrificed himself. Here's a twist not many people considered. What if Eggman actually had a backup plan in case he died? That plan could have been to create a copy of his mind and upload it into the body of one of the Metal Sonic units. A robot way more powerful, capable of controlling a massive army of Metal Sonics. The ones we saw in the post-credit scene were probably just a tiny fraction of the army, which would explain why Amy Rose took them down so easily. If Sega and Paramount have the guts to go for this, it'll be a huge shakeup for the franchise's story, since Metal Sonic in the games has a pretty dark personality. Robotnik, especially the movie version, is much more over the top and funny, and that's not going to change even after he moves into a robot body. While the Metal Sonic army keeps that dark villainous vibe, the main unit could still be just as hilarious as Eggman himself. And let's not forget, even though the scientists went through a redemption arc at the end of the third movie, this probably won't apply to the version we'll see in the next film. He won't be the exact same Eggman, but rather a copy of his consciousness without the memories of what happened in Sonic 3. Meaning, he'll still hate the blue blur and probably blame him for the tragic end of the original Robotnik. Just imagine Sonic's biggest villain having both his super genius brain and tech weapons and the Hedgehog's insane speed. He'd be the biggest threat Sonic has ever faced, hands down. But there are lots of other ways Dr. Robotnik could return in Sonic 4, and we're going to talk about all of them in this video. So get ready, sit back and enjoy. This is another episode of Cinewave. The reason so many people doubt Eggman could make a comeback is because of how his sacrifice happened. He was on a spaceship that was destroyed by a powerful chaos energy explosion. And yeah, when you put it like that, it really does sound impossible to survive, even for Eggman, who somehow lived through a massive fall at the end of Sonic 2. But what if the explosion didn't destroy him, but instead teleported him to another dimension? Chaos energy is insanely powerful and can bend space-time itself. Shadow uses it to teleport, and even Eggman managed to do the same after absorbing the Master Emerald, which, by the way, is a limitless source of chaos energy. So it's not crazy at all to think that Eggman wasn't destroyed in the blast, but was actually thrown into an entirely different reality, and this would explain the Sonic 3 concept art showing him dressed as a king in an apocalyptic world. The very same world where Amy lives. Most fans believe that deleted scene just showed an alternate version of the scientist who managed to take over the world, but what if it's actually the very same Dr. Robotnik we followed for 3 movies? Only now, trapped in Amy's dimension and having conquered that entire reality. Another possibility is that King Eggman really is Robotnik from Amy's universe, while the Eggman from Sonic's world is also stuck in that same dimension, just hiding, assuming he hasn't already been captured and turned into a prisoner by his alternate self. Honestly, this might even make more sense. It would let the movie keep Eggman as the villain without having to undo the original character's redemption arc, and he might even team up with Team Sonic to defeat his evil counterpart. And if you'd love to see Eggman make a comeback in Sonic 4, drop a comment below, #Eggman. Now, if there's a good chance Dr. Robotnik got blasted into a different dimension, there's also another real possibility. What if the Chaos Emerald explosion actually threw him into a different time? And if he really is the king-like Eggman from the concept art, that could mean he ended up in a far-off future. So those concept designs would actually be set in a post-apocalyptic future, not in another dimension. But we also can't rule out the idea that the scientists might have been thrown back in time. Just imagine if he landed in an era where technology either didn't exist or was way less advanced. That could lead to some hilarious scenes, but let's not forget, Dr. Robotnik already survived for months on the Mushroom Planet. In other words, he's smart enough to stay alive pretty much anywhere. So if the villain, let's say for example, ended up in ancient Egypt, sure, he'd have some tough times at first, but he'd definitely find a way to turn things around, and maybe, just maybe, even become a pharaoh. And that brings us to a pretty big question. In the Sonic movie universe, does time travel actually change the past, or is history always set in stone? If it's the first case, the changes Robotnik makes in the past would reshape the present, and maybe Sonic would notice it. or someone a bit more brainy like Tails. But if the rule is that time never changes, that would mean Robotnik was always meant to go back. and the world we know only exists because of him. How awesome would it be to find out ancient Egypt wasn't advanced because of aliens or anything like that, but thanks to a certain bald guy with a huge mustache? Would Team Sonic end up running into him after accidentally traveling back to the past themselves? Or would the scientists manage to return to the present after building a time machine? Either way, we've got to admit, this would be such a cool way to bring Dr. Robotnik back. While the first post-credit scene in Sonic 3 introduced Amy and Metal Sonic, the second scene revealed something seriously awesome. Shadow, who had apparently sacrificed himself to save the Earth, is actually still alive. Not that anyone really thought he was gone for good. Let's be honest, Shadow's still got a ton of story left to tell. Chances are, he survived thanks to his teleportation abilities, and for that very same reason, he could have saved Robotnik too. All it would have taken was Shadow teleporting into the ship and then teleporting Eggman out before it blew up. This theory is honestly one of the most likely to be confirmed. It's a simple, straightforward explanation that would be super easy to work into the movie. Plus, since Paramount might not be totally sure if Jim Carrey is coming back, it's smart to have an option that won't totally mess up the story if they decide last minute to bring Robotnik back. And if Paramount goes with this route, it would be so cool to see more interactions between Robotnik and Shadow. The two of them would probably be pretty banged up after barely escaping death, and they'd need to lay low somewhere while they recover, which would be the perfect chance for them to have some deeper conversations and, who knows, maybe even become friends. It's something almost no one would expect, but it'd be such a welcome surprise. Even better, imagine if, after Sonic 4, Paramount announces a brand new spin-off, Shadow the Series. Everyone's been hyped for this ever since the Knuckles show dropped. Just picture it. Instead of sticking to the movies, Robotnik becomes one of the main characters in Shadow the Series, teaming up with the ultimate anti-hero. And if that really happens, you're gonna be so glad you saw this theory here on the channel before it got confirmed. So, how about hitting that subscribe button to stay tuned for all the best theories about your favorite animated shows and movies?
Thank you.
When we start theorizing about ways Dr. Robotnik could return in Sonic 4, there's an important little detail we need to keep in mind. In the games, there's already been a character who came back from the dead, and that character is none other than Sonic himself. This happened in Sonic the Hedgehog, where his life was cut short by the villain Mephiles. But after his tragic end, the Chaos Emeralds themselves brought him back to life. It's totally possible that the same thing could happen with Dr. Robotnik. Maybe Metal Sonic was activated specifically to gather the Chaos Emeralds and bring his master back. Or maybe it's Team Sonic themselves who will collect the relics to revive him. After all, Robotnik might just be the only one who knows how to finally take down Metal Sonic for good. But let's be real, in the movies, it probably won't be as simple as just gathering all the emeralds around someone's body to bring them back. Some kind of ritual would likely be required, which means they'd need something more, like a sacrifice, to trade someone's life for Robotnik's. And if something that dark really is necessary, I think you and I both know exactly who would volunteer for the job. Agent Stone. He's always admired his boss, and there's no doubt he would trade his own life for Robotnik's in a heartbeat, and that would definitely make Eggman's return way more emotional, especially because the scientists genuinely cared about Agent Stone too, even if he didn't always show it. And he'd feel seriously guilty once he found out about Stone's sacrifice. We already talked about the possibility of Robotnik copying his mind and uploading it into a Metal Sonic, but what if, instead of that, he actually created a full-on clone of himself, one that looks exactly like him? Since Jim Carrey's biggest strength is his incredible range of facial expressions, this could be a fun way to bring him back without turning him into a full CGI character. I mean, sure, he could still be a robot, but with the exact same appearance as Jim Carrey, or even better, a completely biological clone. Flesh and blood. Either way, this Eggman 2.0 could end up being way stronger than the original. If the clone is a robot, it's pretty obvious why. He'd be tougher since he's made of metal and packed with a huge arsenal of built-in weapons. In fact, nothing would stop him from having powers just like Metal Sonic. Even if he's a flesh and blood clone, his strength wouldn't have to be any less impressive. Dr. Robotnik has already had access to 2 of Sonic's quills and has definitely studied chaos energy, so it's very possible he could have used the quill he got in Sonic 3 to give his clone special abilities, like moving objects with his mind, just like the original Robotnik could when he had the Master Emerald. We've left 2 really fun videos right here on your screen. Just click one of them if you want to keep the fun going. Thanks a lot, and see you next time!